Swaminathan knew very well that this is not going to do good in the long run. Yet he had to take. Sometimes attack is the best form of defense, as Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan said during 1975 Indo-Pak War. Similarly, he had to take on to this Green Revolution, which he really referred to as exploitative agriculture. And the fact of the matter was he got the dwarfing gene wheat material, and he multiplied them, and he had a tremendous increase in the yield of the wheat and then rice. And in doing so, there were compulsions. One could ask, if he thought it is exploitative agriculture, why did he have to do it? The answer was simple. India had no food grains. I was a student in Delhi, also General Secretary and Students' Union mess member and all that. We had no chapatis or rice for as many as 3 days, 4 days a week. And that kind of a situation, it had to be done. The second thing was humiliation. American authors, Ehrlich, and then also Paddock brothers, economists, wrote 2 books in 1967-68. One book said that America's decision, who should survive. And they used triage principle that is done in army and said this country can be saved because the population pressure is not that high. Whereas if you come to India, these people are multiplying like maggots, and therefore they should be written off. So that was humiliation. One of the ministers said that Green Revolution was necessary to overcome the humiliation of that. And that is precisely this, because of the books. Ehrlich wrote a book called Population Bomb. Then again, that is going to explode and India will be done. In between, there was another thing also happened. The humiliation of India's image as a begging bowl. And this begging bowl thing, anywhere, if anybody went abroad at the time, oh yeah, did you have lunch? Do you have food to eat once a day at least, and so on. So in these are the compelling circumstances why Professor Swaminathan had to embark on this Green Revolution, which he referred to. In fact, they can get it on the print, this one? Oh, it's already there. Okay, now this is a famous thing. 1968 earmarked 2 things on the agricultural front. One is that Green Wheat Revolution was commemorated by releasing a special stamp. And that special stamp, okay, I don't know, it's not coming either. Yeah, it's coming. Is that, it's coming up? Yeah, it's coming. Oh, okay.
You can see that here.
Oh, I see, okay, yeah. Yeah, on 17th July 1968, the jubilant country released this, Government of India released this stamp. And Dr. Swaminathan was responsible for putting the IRA library in the background and wheat grain. The IRA library represented the knowledge, the scientific knowledge that was essential for bringing about this revolution, Green Revolution. And at the same time, when this was, and by the way, this IRA library that you see is now known as Professor MS Swaminathan Library, which is a great thing. That is the best that the country could do to him, apart from, of course, posthumous Bharat Ratna. The other thing is, in the same year, in 1968, Professor Swaminathan was the chairman of agricultural session of the 55th Indian Science Congress. And there, he described this new agriculture, chemistry-oriented agriculture, as exploitative agriculture. The slide will show if you can read it. And there he says, intensive cultivation of land without conservation of soil fertility and soil structure would lead ultimately to the springing up of deserts. And that is what was happening, in fact. Irrigation without arrangements for drainage, etc., would bring about salinization of the soils and so on. And also he referred to the biopesticides and so on. Today, for example, the 2 parts, Punjab, Western UP and so on, have got a large incidence of cancers. And there is a train called Cancer Express that goes to Jaipur for treatment and so on of the patients. And he had anticipated it. All this, what we see today, had been very well anticipated and documented by Professor Swaminathan. And he then says that this needs to be changed. How do you change? Other thing happened. The positive sides were described by one of our ministers here in the morning. thing that happened which should not have happened. When you have mountains of grains in our godowns, what do you expect? Every Indian has got enough food to eat. No, it didn't happen. The paradox was mountains of grains on one hand and millions of hungry people on the other. Immediately, Dr. Swaminathan addressed that. Why this has happened? This is because they don't have access. If you must have food, you have to have first money in the pocket to buy the food, and that was lacking. In which sector of the people didn't have that kind of money? Largely, it is a rural poor, landless labor, marginals, and small farmers. They didn't have money to buy food that they produced. So this he has described very vividly in a lecture called Princess Lilavati Memorial Lecture in Mysore. And there he first put the blueprint of this foundation as well, which is that you have to concurrently attend to livelihoods, rural livelihoods, gender equity, and these are very important components of food security. Food security doesn't come merely because you have enough food. In fact, as a matter of fact, I must just tell you, Borlaug and Prof. Swaminathan were very great friends, yet they had a fundamental difference. The fundamental difference was, to Professor Swaminathan, the sustainability of food is very important. You have to produce year after year after year for several generations. Whereas for Borlaug, I want just done, I don't care about others. Professor Swaminathan paid enormous attention to ecological and social aspects of food security. And to him, he said, nothing doing, I'm not concerned about all of them. As a matter of fact, there was a book written called Silent Spring, written by Rachel Carson, and she had developed cancer because of exposure to DDT in particular. So she wrote the Silent Spring, saying that during spring we like to listen to the chirping of the birds, butterflies, and so on. No, all of them are gone now, thanks to DDT. And this is going to cause problem to us as well. And in that sense, that Professor Swaminathan paid enormous attention to reducing the application of pesticides in particular, as well as the chemical fertilizers and so on. These things motivated. Social aspects, ecological aspects are the two driving forces that he had integrated to produce what is called the Evergreen Revolution. How did he define the Evergreen Revolution? He defined it as achieving productivity in perpetuity, because Green Revolution doesn't give you productivity in perpetuity. So achieving productivity in perpetuity without accompanying ecological and social harm. That is Evergreen Revolution. And this is towards it he's spent much of the time, and this foundation itself stands for it. And as far as Evergreen Revolution is concerned, one of the professors, outstanding professors of ecology in Harvard University, next one. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't bring my glasses most of the time. This is what I have shown. Next one. Edward Wilson was an outstanding ecologist of Harvard University. And he has written several books. One of it is in the library here, The Future of Life. And there, he makes a reference to Professor Swaminathan and the Evergreen Revolution. And you can read it. He says the problem before us, Professor Wilson says, problem before us is how to feed billions of new mouths over the next several decades and save the rest of life at the same time. Because the point is conversion of forest land into farmland and farmland into others, and human-animal conflicts and so on, without being trapped in a Faustian bargain that threatens freedom and security. The benefits must come from an evergreen revolution, and he mentions Professor Swaminathan's name here. The aim of this new thrust is to lift food production well above the level attained by the Green Revolution of the 1960s, using technology and regulatory policy more advanced and even safer now. Now, this is Evergreen Revolution, been winning a lot of things. Novel papers and philosophical transactions of the Royal Society show how this can be done. Eco-agriculture, people thought you can't produce enough food through organic agriculture or other means. This is not true. Actually, Joule's papers and others have shown that you can far exceed the chemically developed agriculture through eco-agriculture, and this eco-agriculture would be sustainable because the fertilizer-based agriculture, pesticide-based crop protection, etc., will be there for a while. After that, the insect develops. For example, today we talk about genetic engineering and the BT. BT has failed because it was expected to fail. And Dr. Swaminathan, as the chairman of the Agricultural Biotechnology, had clearly mentioned that many countries should embark on this kind of eco-agriculture and not developing pesticide as one of the genes for combating this, because insects would develop resistance, and that is what has happened. I don't know if I'm in time or finished. You have 1 more minute. Okay, thank you. I must say that coming to it, Jeffrey Sachs, the director of the Earth Institute in New York, he wrote a foreword to Professor Swaminathan's book about 2010 or so, academic foundation book, titled From Green to Evergreen Revolution. And in that book, the foreword was written by Jeffrey Sachs. And he said that notwithstanding all the technological wizardry we have developed, including the Green Revolution, we have not been able to produce sustainable food production. This statement is true even today. Every time you know the kind of problems that go on with it. So he said one man who has ideas to develop a sustainable agriculture, and that we should appreciate that, is Professor M.S. Swaminathan. So that is the one who has made a remarkable increase in food production. Before 1968, for about 4,000 years onwards, if you come until 1967, 68, food production was more or less stagnant, and India was always a food deficient country. And from food deficient country to food surplus country was achieved through a means called exploitative agriculture. Or the reason why it was changed was exploitative agriculture didn't make many people happy. In fact, Borlaug was very upset. You know, there's a kind of a personal communication I had with my professor, Swaminathan, and he said, yes, and he was not very happy with this, what he had said in 1968. And so they decided, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, and one William Gates said that we have to change it, and that was the Green Revolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. In fact, the long association, there are a lot of issues we can cover, but for want of time, thank you very much for offering tributes in this session. The next speaker is going to be, he has already sent it, Dr. Rudy Robinge. In fact, he is watching us through the link, and he is the Professor Emeritus in Sustainable Development and Food Security in Wageningen University in Netherlands. In fact, he also had a very long association with Professor. From 2021 to 2023, Dr. Rudy Robinge served as a chair of the IDFC Board of Directors. He is Professor Emeritus in Sustainable Development and Food Security, and he previously served as the chairman of the Science Council and Partnerships of the Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research, CGIAR. He is a former member of the Senate of the Netherlands Parliament and the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Royal Institute of the Tropics. There are several laurels he has received. Because of the time frame, I am requesting our team to play the video of Professor Rudy Robinge.
Year, we will celebrate 100 years after the birth of MS Swaminathan. For the coming year, we will prepare ourselves for Thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this important event. Next year, we will celebrate 100 years after the birth of MS Swaminathan. For the coming year, we will prepare ourselves for a celebration next year. And so I'm very glad that this event has been organized and that I have the opportunity to contribute with a tribute to MS Swaminathan. The most influential, the most impressive, and the most delivering scientist I have ever seen, and who has contributed to food security worldwide, introducing more peace talks at different places around the world, and last but not least, who delivered activities, be it in agriculture sciences, be it in fundamental sciences, in the biology. He has delivered and has an enormous impact. And I will illustrate that by 5 different things, although much more has been described and different biographs have been written. For example, the one by Ayer, who did the important book Scientist and Humanist, MS Swaminathan. First of all, I would like to make clear that he was a scientist which was oriented to cytogenetics, fundamental science, and he did it after World War II, and after reaching his MSc in Delhi, he came to the Wageningen in the Netherlands, where he worked under the leadership of Professor Bracken in cytogenetics, and in an important crop in that time in Western Europe, in potato. He was capable of developing the cytogenetics and made also clear that polyploids are possible, delivering higher yields, and potato with its higher harvest index than, for example, small grains, with its possibility to have harvest even if the circumstances are bad, and last but not least, a better water use efficiency. Potato has something to deliver and contribute worldwide to food security. That's his contribution, and he did excellent work there as a scientist with a lot of teaching at universities and other places. And the second thing, he was not only oriented to cytogenetics, but he demonstrated very clearly that you have to have a systems approach, much broader, where biotechnology, where production ecology play an important role. And he brought all these elements together such that the needed increase of productivity was fulfilled, and that's what he delivered, and where the impact was enormous. As a governor, he was also very influential at national level, but also at international level, and he was leading many committees, many organizations, and many activities around the world, which were all contributing to a situation where agriculture sciences, and most importantly, food security as seen as the major issue and the highest priority worldwide. That was what he was doing as a governor. And then he was also someone who was very oriented to peace and humanistic contribution, and that's why he was leading the Bookwash movement, and he did that in an excellent way, such that we could see that Bookwash was fighting against nuclear weaponry, but also contributing to a world without war, a world free of hunger, a world with no war. That was his intention, and he was fulfilling that. But above all, he was a scientist, and he was a harmonizing person who brought people together, and he was more than just in the work, but he was a friend, and he had no fights. And that has been summarized by Ayer in his final statement, and I would like to end that with also. And to my mind, Swaminathan combines in himself the genius and courage of C.V. Raman. He was the chairman and dynamics of, and he has the charisma and the dynamics of Nehru, the deep compassion and non-violence of Mahatma Gandhi, and the egoless state of Bhaga van Raman. A rare recombination indeed, and he fulfilled that. We are thankful for his contribution and the way he has been working. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rudy Rubinge, for these wonderful words. In fact, we were able to get your good video. The next speaker is Ambassador Kenneth Quinn. He was also kind enough to send his video. He was President Emeritus, the World Food Prize Foundation, USA. I know it's my honor to give a brief introduction about Ambassador Kenneth Quinn. He was the former US Ambassador to Cambodia, Deputy Assistant Secretary to the state, as well as member of the National Security Council staff at the White House. He retired and led the World Food Prize Foundation from 2000 to 2020, a long stint there. Inspired by the vision of Dr. Norman Borlaug, the founder of World Food Prize, Ambassador Quinn has endeavored to build this annual $250,000 award into the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture. Very happy to inform you the first recipient of this particular award is Professor M.S. Swaminathan, and proceeds of that was used to set up this institution. Under his leadership, events like Borlaug Dialogue grew in prominence, hosting notable figures such as Xi Jinping and Bill Gates. A key expert on Indochina, Quinn reported on Khmer Rouge genocidal policies and contributed to their eradication. He has received numerous national honors and awards, including US Army Air Medal, and he remains the only civilian ever to win this honor. Dr. Quinn became the 23rd person in Iowa history to receive the prestigious Iowa Medal, the state highest civilian honor. Quinn's diplomatic career includes roles on the National Security Council, US missions to the UN, and the chairman of the US Interagency Task Force on POW bar MIAs, etc. I request the team to play the video of Ambassador Kenneth Quinn.
I'm Ambassador Kenneth Quinn, President Emeritus of the World Food Prize Foundation, and I want to say how grateful I am to Dr. Sumia Swaminathan, Chairperson of the MSS Swaminathan Research Foundation, to Dr. Madura Swaminathan, a member of the World Food Prize Council of Advisors, for their invitation to me to take part and speak at this conference on Dr. M.S. Swaminathan's vision for a hunger-free world and an evergreen revolution. I also want to say a special word of appreciation to Dr. M.J. Khan, the chair of the Indian Council of Food and Agriculture and leader of the Agriculture Today group, for his invitation to me to be here in my capacity as the 2023 recipient of the Dr. M.S. Swaminathan Global Leadership Award in Agricultural and Sustainable Development for the presentation of the 2024 award to my very good friend and colleague, Dr. Lindaway Sabanda, now the chair of the CGIAR board system. And I want to recall how I first met Dr. Swaminathan in 1999, and how for a quarter century he was my mentor, my friend, my collaborator in building the World Food Prize so that it might one day come to be seen as the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture. And I came to know and appreciate the role that Dr. Swaminathan played, and how in the 10,000-year history of human agriculture, he will be seen, in my view, as having a unique place in the pantheon of the greatest agricultural scientists of what, and leader, along with Dr. Borlaug and Professor Yunlong Ping of China, of what would be the single greatest period of food production and hunger reduction through the Green Revolution and the Evergreen Revolution. And Dr. Swaminathan had this unique role, in my view. He was the sentinel, the individual who was standing all alone, standing guard to see if the great evils of hunger, famine, starvation were And he saw in the early 1960s how they were about to descend on South Asia and on the Middle East. And he went to the UN FAO and with their help brought Dr. Borlaug to India. And as they crisscrossed India and introduced Dr. Borlaug's special wheat plants he had developed in Mexico, and hunger and famine, starvation for hundreds of millions of people were averted, and which led to Dr. Borlaug receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. And then in his leadership role at the International Rice Research Institute in the Philippines, at the time when I was serving at the American Embassy there, and once again, Dr. Swaminathan was standing guard and alerting the world to the fact that even with the great increases of crop production from the Green Revolution, this was not going to be enough. And so his concept of the Evergreen Revolution, of incorporating ecological and environmental initiatives, was born. And this led to Kofi Annan at the UN launching the Millennium Development Goals, and Dr. Swaminathan's role as the co-chair of the Hunger Task Force, and a decade and a half of further initiatives and breakthroughs which made the world helpful and hopeful that we would be able to eradicate hunger and poverty. And this led to, in 2015, to the Sustainable Development Goals being promulgated by the UN. And with Dr. Swaminathan, we promoted these, and with his leadership at the World Food Prize, at our annual Borlaug Dialogue Symposium. And I saw in 2019, when I came to Chennai to receive the MS Swaminathan Award for Environmental Protection, that still the issues were there to be addressed, and that if we were to reach zero hunger, zero poverty, zero malnutrition by the target year of 2030, more still needed to be done. And so I think of this award being presented to Dr. Lindawe Sabanda today in Chennai, and that in a sense, a very real sense, she is coming forward to assume that role as the sentinel, as the person guarding the global food system, issuing the alert worldwide. She has relieved Dr. Swaminathan from his guard station, and she is there now with his humility and his vision, two characteristics of hers, leading the CGIAR system. And I know that she is going to be playing that very same role of leadership and initiative and ensuring that the global food system and global food security are addressed. Congratulations to my dear friend, Dr. Sabanda. I know you are going to play an incredible and meaningful role as the chair of the CGIAR system board, and also as the 2024 recipient of the MS Swaminathan Award for global leadership in food security and agricultural development. I wish everyone a great success at this important conference.
Thank you, Professor Ambassador Kenneth Quinn. It's wonderful to hear you. Our next speaker is Professor Bruce Alberts. He has also sent his video. We will play, and he will be watching this program. Team, please play the video.
Greetings, I'm Bruce Alberts in San Francisco, California. Real pleasure to be here with you in spirit, if not in reality. I was the president of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, a full-time job for 12 years. It was a great learning experience. The major lesson I learned, even though I've been long a scientist, is that it's really critical, important that scientists and science achieve a much higher degree of influence throughout both our nations and the world if humanity is going to be successful in the future. In particular, we need much more of the creativity, rationality, openness, and tolerance that are inherent to science. Prime Minister Nehru's famous scientific temper. We need both for my country and the rest of the world. Much of my learning came from my extensive interactions with MS Swaminathan during visits to India and also elsewhere. This shows my wife and I applauding the presentation that just been made by the female leaders, all female, of the Information Villages project near Pondicherry. Of course, MS is there applauding as well. Here's a picture from 2013. And here's a more recent picture I like very much of the proud parents of Sumya at her celebration of her new appointment at the World Health Organization. So the main point I want to make is that MS had a profound effect not only on me, but my position at the Academy on the international activities of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. Very energetic. We did a lot of work in Africa, elsewhere around the world, bunches of science programs with other countries. And this is an article that summarizes it in that review issue with many different tributes to MS. Of course, I can't go through that in detail here in my short time. MS also inspired my final issue as editor-in-chief of Science Magazine, the 5-year job I had after I finished at the Academy. And here's a picture of the cover of this issue, and it's focused on science for all, the lessons we had learned from a very recent trip to India. So my real summary of this tribute is my admiration for MS Swaminathan's insistence on, ground truth and focusing on real people, farmers and people in poverty, and how can we bring science to them, and all the many experiments he and his foundation did and will continue in the future. Through his wisdom and example, MS has made people around the world aware of the enormous good that can be provided to the world's poor through both science and the work of scientists. He has therefore had a profound effect on many of us all around the globe, helping us to realize that the potential span of science is much greater than we had ever imagined, thereby giving scientists the opportunity, and I would say that also the responsibility, to become an even greater force for progress in the world. To conclude, it's been a real privilege for me to have this opportunity to speak to you today. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I've been there in many other August workshops. I wish everyone best of luck and success in the future in your important work, especially the foundation going forward. And I'm sure that MS's spirit and vision will continue for a very long time, and we need you all to be highly successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bruce Alberts, for this wonderful video and also the revealing the long-standing association with you. And the last speaker for this session, in fact, Dr. Bui Bong, is the last foreign student of Professor MS Swaminathan to get graduated from IRI. So there is he was the former Deputy Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development, Vietnam. He received his PhD in 1992 in genetics at the Indian Agricultural Research Institute. He worked at the, sir, forgive me if I am pronouncing it wrong, Long Delta Rice Research Institute in 1977 and became its director in 1999. This institute was founded under the collaboration of Vietnam and India, of which Professor M. Swaminathan was the pioneer, opening the way to initiate this collaboration. The institute has been recognized as the leading national rice research institute in Vietnam. Dr. Bui Bong was promoted as Vice Minister of Ministry of Agriculture and Development Vietnam in 2001 and held this position until 2013. He has contributed to the incredible success of Vietnamese rice sector, which has become a hardcore of the national food security and leading rice exporter of the world. In 2013-2015, Dr. Bong was a Senior Agriculture Officer of the Food and Agriculture Organization for Asia and Pacific. His duties were to provide consultancy for the rice development in the region. At present, Dr. Bong has been the president of the Vietnam Rice Sector Association that he was elected in 2023. Dr. Bui Bong was awarded the Ho Chi Minh Prize for Science and Technology, the highest prize for science in Vietnam in 2000, and medals by the President of the Socialistic Republic of Vietnam and President of the Lao People Democratic Republic. In 2018, Dr. Bong received the Distinguished Alumni Award presented by the Indian Council for Cultural Relation, ICCR, which is the most prestigious award given to the ICCR alumni who have made significant achievements in their respective countries. With this introduction, may I request you, sir, to give your tributes.
Respected Dr. Swaminathan and Dr. Swaminathan family, ladies and gentlemen. From Vietnam, I carry with me a photo of Professor Swaminathan. This photo is very unique because it is handmade from the lotus leaf. And the artists, they got small pieces of the lotus leaf to make this photo. Because the life of Professor Swaminathan is pure, is a lotus flower. So we're happy to have this photo to present to your family of Professor Swaminathan. In the memory of Professor Swaminathan, today I have a small talk about the contribution of Professor Swaminathan to the Vietnam agriculture. Number one, Professor Swaminathan is the founder of the Vietnam-India collaboration in agriculture and the conceiver for the establishment of the Mekong Delta Rice Research Institute in Vietnam. And he was a promoter of the rice improvement in Vietnam through the International Rice Research Institute, where he was a Director General. Yeah, okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So Vietnam united in 1975, and just after 1 year of unification, the government of Vietnam sent Professor Swaminathan. The government of India sent Professor Swaminathan to Vietnam to help Vietnam to restore agriculture after the war. and he took the first trip to the Mekong River Delta in 1977 to survey the location, the land, everything in the Mekong River Delta to establish the Rajashok Institute there. And after that, Dr. Swaminathan sent many scientists, Indian scientists, to Vietnam to set up the institute. You see, some Indian scientists work together with the researchers from Vietnam and develop today the Rajashok Institute. So the India helped Vietnam to train 70 scientists in India. Now they work very good in Vietnam to help Vietnamese agriculture. And when Dr. Swaminathan was Director General of IRRI, he visited the Institute again in 1994. You saw in the photograph. The man left professor is me at that time. Very, very young and very thin. And after that, many scientists from IRRI, and accidentally they were also Indian, like Professor Kush, G.S. Kush, Professor A.S.D. Also visited our institute to help us. So thanks to the support of Professor Swaminathan, long time ago, and after that, through the Rajashok Institute, Vietnam now emerged as a rice exporter of the world, number 3 of the world, and we produce surplus rice for about 100 million people. And lastly, I would like to pay respect and my respect to my teacher, Professor Swaminathan. You see, in 1991, he inspected my experimental field at Pusha in New Delhi, the IRI, located there. And right after the passing away of Professor in Vietnam, we pay tribute to him. You see, one article published in Vietnam right after he passed away there. So, in memory of Professor Swaminathan, we can say that Professor Swaminathan's visionary perspectives are not only relevant to India, but also applicable to many other countries worldwide, including Vietnam. His legacy will live on as a guiding star in the hearts of our farmers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's a wonderful, recollection of your association. And, at this moment, I need to say that we are getting delayed at least by another 40-45 minutes. For the sake of time, Chairperson Dr. Swaminathan informed that her talk we will skip for a while, and we will go to the session quickly. So I request Dr. Rangalakshmi to come here and start organizing the session. Yeah. As a token of our affection, it's our privilege to give this kit to Dr. Baibong.